whatever. We got a
Um,
pretty good
yeah,
rapport here.
yeah, that's great. All right, well, let's get going. Mike Coffey, thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks, Stu, for having me.
Welcome to Bitcoin Park. I didn't know this was not your first time being here at the
My
park.
first time to be here. It's fantastic. Very impressive.
Yeah, it's a great facility.
Yeah.
So we're sitting right now in the podcasting studio. So
Okay.
behind you is a Bitcoin Veterans flag, which I think stays here most of the time. It's awesome. So a great backdrop. And then behind me is the Blue Cotton logo. If people can see that just over my shoulder. Really, really cool space. And, it's an interesting time in Bitcoin, for people that have been around for a while. This is a different type of cycle that we're in. And we're going to probably get into some of that stuff. But I think what would be really awesome, you and I are both Kentuckians.
Yes, we are.
Born
Go
in-
Big Blue.
Go Big Blue. We're going to talk about the full scouting report now. But born and raised in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I was as well. Give me your origin story, because I think we're going to get into Blue Cotton and how awesome what that represents. But I'd love to hear your origin story, and I think people would
Sure.
too.
I was born in Owensboro, actually,
Yeah.
until I was I lived there until I was about 2.
Yeah.
And my family moved to Louisville. I grew up in Louisville, went to high school in Louisville, went to Mayo High School. Graduated in '85. We had a guy that played for us in 1983, Winston Bennett, went on to play at Kentucky,
Yeah.
went on to play in the NBA.
Sure.
So that was pretty cool at our high school. And then I went to college for 2 years at this little private school in Florida called Florida College in Tampa. And then a very brief stop at Auburn University it was actually a quarter. It would be a semester, but they're
Okay.
on the quarter system. And then I ended up at Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green.
Okay.
And I finished basically my last 2 years there. And I was supposed to be a CPA. My parents wanted me to be a CPA. And a lot of people probably wanted me to be a CPA. And I sat for the exam, and I actually did very well. Back in the old days, this was like in the 89 or 90. The exam was like 2.5 days, and so I passed all of it on the first try except for one part.
wow.
So I was very proud of that. But I had already started selling I started selling T-shirts in the summer while I was waiting for those results to come back, and I ended up selling T-shirts. T-shirts were really. I couldn't find a job. I didn't interview very well back in those days.
Yeah.
And so I just kept selling T-shirts, and I kept thinking this will just be a bridge till I get to the real thing. And 35 years later, I like this. Like you've heard the overnight success, 35 years in the making. That's Blue Cotton. That's what we are. So it was me in 1991, and now we have 130 people that work in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Just got named one of the best places to work in Kentucky. Like probably probably our proudest moment. Especially for our people, it's just so incredible to have a place that people really value. So, yeah, that's kind of my work story. It was all an accident. People are like, "Oh, how'd you do it? What was the plan?" I was like, "It was an accident."
Yeah.
It was an accident. But where we are now is a result of a lot of purpose and planning and strategy. And I got a great partner, and I've had good partners through the years. It's never been all on me. I've been there since the beginning. I've been there through it all. I definitely played a big part, but had great people around me. And the reason we are what we are today is a result of having those great people.
As a Kentuckian, you and I share a lot in common. And for people that don't know, so Kentucky's about a few things. What we're known for, basketball, horse racing, bourbon, and maybe becoming a football school too. We'll see.
Maybe.
I'm pretty excited
Maybe.
about that. But talk a little bit more about growing up, when you grew up in Kentucky, even in a town like Owensboro. But I think there's an opportunity maybe to educate a segment of our audience about growing up in a time before technology, aspiring to do something great with your life, and kind of that process, because we're similar ages, and I talk a lot about that to my daughter, to friends of ours. We talk about how these kids and a younger generation is growing up in a different time, certainly, but in a much different way than maybe you and I grew up. Maybe talk a little bit about how that informed your path.
Yeah, I think, I was a kid in the 70s. Yeah. I was in high school in the 80s. I graduated in 85. So like all the electro music and the techno, all that was coming on in the mid 80s. But, I grew up on a big wheel. Remember big wheels?
Oh yeah.
Big wheel. Remember green
machine?
I had
the green machine. Yeah.
Right. I had
Yeah.
a green machine,
Yeah.
and, just outside a lot, played a lot of basketball.
Yeah.
Just, we skateboarded some,
Yeah.
but just, it's, I had a paper route when I was 12. Put those paper bags on my shoulders, get on my bike and, throw them out to the port, right through people's yards. I think just, you learn how to work a little bit and, had a good family, really, really stable family situation, very financially stable. And I don't mean by that, like we were like super rich. We did, my parents did very well. But it was just like, it was very sound. It was very sound.
Yeah.
And that, we spent less than we made and we invested and, it's just, so I had a good framework there. My dad was an executive in a newspaper business. And so, I grew up, I don't say I grew up around business because it was very corporate. It wasn't small business like what I do. It was more corporate, but he was in charge of the show. So I grew up around, people that were in positions of authority and aspiring and ambitious and all that's really, I think all that was really helpful to me. And then, I had high standards. My parents, I couldn't get C's for sure in school. Like that was against the rules. Had to have good grades. My teachers always thought I would do well. And then I started selling T-shirts when I got out of college, and everybody's like, "What happened?" So that's kind of a little bit about how I grew up.
I think that's important because you modeled behavior that you saw. My dad, was in the radio business, and so I watched him get up every morning at 4:30. I didn't watch him, but I knew that he was getting up at 4:30 to do a morning sign-on deal, and he owned the radio station, but he also sold for it, and he operated it, and he did everything, and he had a small staff. And I watched someone who was very entrepreneurial in the time and did some things in radio. Your dad was in the newspaper business, so we, another thing we share in common. But he modeled that work ethic for me, and he was tough on us, man.
Yeah,
really tough on us. Yeah,
which really set us up, I think, to do well in life. I mean, being held to a high standard is a good thing.
Yeah.
In the moment, it doesn't feel so great.
Right.
But looking back, being held to high standards, so we've tried to emulate that with our kids, like hold them to a high standard.
Yeah.
And it proves itself.
Yeah. Thanks for walking through that a bit.
Yeah.
So you start Blue Cotton, and I want to know, like, okay, it's you and how many people? Is it just you?
It's just me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll mention my experience coming to visit you, a few months ago in the plant, which is incredible. But so you started the company, it's just you. What year was that?
That was 1991.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the summer of 1991.
And when did you know that, okay, I'm good at this, there's a market here, I've got an angle?
Oh man, I didn't know that until 1999.
Yeah.
8 years. Now I had a friend. We were partners. It was kind of a weird partnership. He lived in Auburn, Alabama.
Okay.
I had met him through school in Florida, and so he was a biology major, and he also did not find a job right out of college. So he was selling shirts on Auburn University's campus in Alabama. I was selling shirts on Western Kentucky's campus in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And he had
college shirts, like themes,
like fraternities and sororities.
Okay.
For Greeks.
Got
So that was those were the ones that bought the most. They
Right.
were the most easily identifiable.
Yep.
And he was from Alabama, and so he had access to he knew where we could buy blank T-shirts, and he knew where we could get them printed.
Okay.
And so we had an interesting arrangement. I got like 25% of what he made, and I got 75% of what I made.
Yeah.
And then it was vice versa. So that way, if one of us hit like a really big deal, the
Yeah.
other one participated a little bit, And so we were together until about 1997, and we were just, Stu, we were broke. We were just making no money at all.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, he said in 1997, if I don't make X amount of money by this year, I'm out.
Yeah.
And June 30th, we were half through the year, and he wasn't even halfway to the X.
That he had.
Yeah. So he went on, he left. And so that left me by myself in 97. And really in 99, I was looking at my P&L in 99. It was in April. And I was looking at January through March.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I'm 32 years old, getting ready to be 32 years old. I've got 2 kids. I was supposed to be a successful person. And I had made $5,200 in January, February, and March combined. I'm like, I'm not even making $2,000 a month. And I thought to myself, I'm going to have to do something else. Like, this is just this wasn't supposed to be long-term, and it's not going to be long-term. And in April, I went up to IU, Indiana University. They got this little event up there called the Little 500. And
Yeah.
maybe you've heard of it. It's like a tricycle race.
Yeah.
All the Greeks do it, all the framers and stories. And I went up there and I sold a bunch of shirts in April. And I made 15 grand
Giddy up.
in the month of April. And I thought, now wait a second. Maybe there is something to this. Because honestly, and I think this is a good lesson for maybe aspiring business owners who are out there. I was embarrassed to tell people I sold shirts on college campuses. I thought people would think, oh, that guy just never wanted to graduate. He just wanted to stay in college. And I was kind of embarrassed of it. But when I made 15 grand in 1 month, I was like, I don't care what people think about it. Like if it makes money, then you should take pride in it. If it's got, if it's got legs, if it's got a foundation, you should be proud of it. So like, don't get hung up on what it might look like, to somebody else. And so once I realized, hey, there's real money. I mean, I went from making zero money basically. Now I didn't make 15,000 every month after that, but I'd made it that 1 month, and that 1 month was enough for me to think, well, if I can do it 1 month, if I can't do it in May because school's out, I can't do it in June, July, but when August gets back in, if I could just get enough campuses, and so then I had this little campus rep program where I had a rep on IU's campus. I had a rep at UK. I had a rep at WKU. I had a rep at WKU. I had a rep at Vanderbilt. And so those reps did all the work. And then I would just like basically combine the orders together, buy the blanks, get them printed. I didn't really start printing in Bowling Green until 1998. Bought my first press, hired an artist, and then from there it grew. 2003, we went online. 2007, we built what we have now, this design studio where you can kind of make your own. And then it just kind of exploded from there. But it was lean. It was lean for a decade.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good lesson, I think, for all entrepreneurs that, product market fit sometimes can take time to develop, but, it can be a moment like that April for you when you're like, okay, I can do this and I can build a pretty big business if I do it the right way. So Blue Cotton continues to grow. Present day, you're at 130 employees.
Yeah.
What has evolved in you? Maybe nothing, but in terms of building and sustaining a culture that you have found absolutely non-negotiable.
Well, again, this is a lesson I learned too late, but I'm happy to share my experience with people who are in business, who are younger, who can make a big impact. I treated the employee relationship. I treated the employer-employee relationship transactionally for way too long. Like basically just the idea that, man, why can't the people just come to work, right? They said they'd come to work. Why can't they just come to work, do their 8 hours?
Yeah.
I'll write them a check and hey, we'll just go about our own ways, our own separate ways. But that's really a transactional approach to life. And I'm a Christian. We were created by God to be relational. We weren't created to be transactions. We were created to be relational. Yeah. And so my current partner, Julie Denton, who you met in Vegas, we decided, we have the capability to do more for our people, and we need to do more for our people. In fact, I was reading in Proverbs, and Proverbs said, don't withhold good to those whom it's due when it's in your power to give it. And my partner, Julie's the daughter of a Baptist minister. He just retired 45 years as a Baptist preacher, so that was not a hard sell to her. We were starting to have more than just a little success in 2022. And so we decided, we've got to do something to be more impactful for our people. And so the culture that we have now is not one that we had for a long time. I mean, for a long time, it was like a lot of businesses. They just, you start them, they get going, there's frustration, there's conflict. You try to be good to people, nice people, but there's not like, it's not engaging. And our culture now in the last 5 years has just, it's through the roof. The engagement that we get from our people, the buy-in that we get from our people, the investment that we've made on behalf of our people. And that shows up really in two places. Number one, it shows up in their lives. So the people that work for us have careers. It's not just a transient job. Well, I'll work here until I find something else. Like they can come to Blue Cotton and they can have a career. And I guess I should mention Blue Cotton's in the t-shirt business. We do custom screen printing like I'm wearing, like you're wearing, screen printing and embroidery, hats, t-shirts. We do that for clubs, groups, organizations. So, so on the one hand, it really helps our people, but on the second hand, it helps our customers. Like, would you rather order from a company whose customers or whose employees are in and out every 3 months? There's a whole new turnover of people, or from a company that the employee base has got buy-in and they've got like a stake and they've got equity and they've got some agency and some engagement. Like, that's better for our customers. You know, they get their shirts on time.
Yep.
They're correct. I mean, we still make mistakes from time to time, as any business does, but so that changed a lot. So our culture, I really feel like I've had two careers. I had that first career where it was just like, just get the people to do the work and pay them, and let's just, you know, like I said, go our separate ways. And now it's just not like that at all. And the thing that changed, and I know we're going to talk about this, the thing that changed was Bitcoin.
So that's exactly where I wanted to take it. So as founder and CEO of Blue Cotton, how did you find Bitcoin? And it obviously has had an impact on the work environment, a major impact on the work environment and your culture at Blue Cotton. How in the world did you find Bitcoin? Why was it important to you? And what were the circumstances in your own life that allowed you to be open to it?
Yeah. So my story is not dissimilar from a lot of people. I learned about it in 2013.
Yeah.
Bought some in 2013. Didn't have any idea what I was buying. I bought
and
it.
Why did you buy?
A friend of mine said, "Hey, you should buy Bitcoin. It's crazy. It's going way up in value."
Yeah.
So I bought it at like I don't know. I thought I had like maybe 20 coins. I think I had 19 coins. I bought them at 700.
Yeah.
In February of 2014, Mount Gox. There was a Mount Gox thing. I didn't even know what any of that meant at the time. And I was just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. I sold it all for $350. So I bought them for 700, sold them for 350. So I am the definition of you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. I just didn't deserve it in the price in the hundreds. But I came back to it during COVID at the end of 2020. I was like, man, I can't even believe that's still around. And I can't believe how much it's worth. Like, cause that was worth like 25,000 or 27,000 at the end of 2020. And, you know, I was always a hard money type person, like Austrian, economics.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I have very conservative values in general, and especially about money, you know, spend less than you make, you know, invest, you know, high time or low time preference.
Yep.
So I started studying it in 2020, and that's when I really learned what it really was. Like in 2013, it was just a way to get rich, right? For me,
Number go up,
and it number went down, and so I was out. You know, that's too bad, because I think about if I would have really known what it was then, like what I could have done. I mean, for me and my family for sure, but what I could have done for the business, like I could have made dozens and dozens of people multimillionaires.
Sure.
But, you know, you learn when you learn. And so I learned it in 2020. I really dove in 21, 22. I mean, ever since then, I've listened to every podcast, read every book. You know, I'm very invested in terms of, like, you know, mentally, intellectually, my own finances, my own money.
Yeah.
The company has money invested in Bitcoin. So in 2020, during COVID, which was tough for our business because we're in the business of people getting together. People get together, they buy, you know, 20 shirts, 200 shirts, 500 shirts. Well, that wasn't happening. That was kind of a tough time for our business, but we never closed. You know, so our governor in Kentucky, he was a close your business kind of guy.
Yeah.
And we were a not close your business kind of people. And so we stayed open, had to have some excuse, like had to have some, like, how can we be, what was the word they used? Had to have necessary. What was it called? You had to have an essential. You had to have an essential business.
Essential business.
You had to have an essential business, as though they all aren't.
You're right.
We had to have an essential business. So we tried to figure out how to make masks. And so we started making masks so we could be
kidding.
Yeah, so we could, like, be, quote, official. And we kept printing shirts. We didn't have a lot of shirt business. We had some, but we sold a lot of masks.
Wow.
And we were working an insane number of hours, like from most hours I've ever worked. But in 2020, as a way to say thank you to our people, we'd gotten some PPP money. And so we said, you know, we're going to give $30,000 to our people because they came in, because this was like June. I think this was like June of 2020. By that point, people were starting to realize this is becoming a very big political issue. I mean, there was a health element to it, obviously, but it was really becoming politicized. And But early on, nobody knew that. Early on in March of 2020, I was like, I don't know, what should we do? Should we wear gloves? Should we wear a mask?
Right.
This, that, and the other. I mean, but by June, the data was coming out that maybe it wasn't as deadly to certain demographics as it was to others, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so as a way of saying thank you to the people that had come into work every day, we went on the floor one day and we just said, hey, we're going to give $30,000 away in cash. Wow. If you're full-time, you're getting X amount. If you're part-time, you're getting X amount. And we handed the money out. And I mean, you can imagine, Stu, back then we probably had 80, 90, 100 people, probably 90 or 100 people. And they just cheered and like humongous roar. And, we handed out the money and everybody felt great. And we were happy to do it, and they were happy to get it, and we did. We wanted to say thank you because they did take risks. March, April, May, June, there was risk in coming to work. You didn't know. And so we wanted to say thank you. And so 2 years later, fast forward 2 years later, 2022, business is doing pretty good again. COVID's behind us, and my partner Julie, who you met, we was like, let's do that again, but let's do 40,000 this time. And we're just going to take it out of our profits, and we're just going to go out there and
share it.
We're just going to share it. And so we were already into this, like I said, Proverbs 3, don't withhold good to whom it's due, and it's in your power to give it. So we were very much in this mode. And I asked one of my most responsible people, financially responsible people. He was in my office doing some work. And I said, hey, remember when we gave that money away 2 years ago? And he was like, yeah, well, I remember. And I said, how much did you get? And he said, I don't remember how much I got. And man, it flew all over me because we gave away 30 grand. I mean, Stu, I just told you, I didn't even make 30 grand for many years. I didn't even take home $30,000, and we gave it away. And 2 years later, it had made no impact. They remembered that something happened, but they didn't remember how much they got. So I marched right down to Julie's office and I said,
hey, listen, do something different.
We're not giving that $40,000 away.
Right.
I can tell you that. And so then I started thinking, well, what could we do? And I started thinking, what could I give them that they would never forget? Bingo, Bitcoin. That's what I knew. That's why I was like, Bitcoin. I was 2 years in to Bitcoin. It was asymmetric. It was like, it's either going to go to nothing or it's going to go way up. There is no in between. I hope your audience knows that too. Like, there is no in between for Bitcoin. It will either fail or it will go way up. And I believe that. I think failure is out of the barn. I don't think failure is there. Yeah. Unless there's some catastrophic compromise in the network or something that just nobody can see. But at this point, failure seems to me to be pretty far off the table.
Just as a tangent on that note, Jeff Booth says as long as the protocol remains decentralized and secure, Bitcoin will continue.
It will continue to grow, and it will continue to grow for two reasons: because there's only 21 million, it's finite, and because governments will never stop spending money that they don't have.
Right.
So because of those two factors, those two features, Bitcoin will continue to grow. So I said, hey, look, what could we do? And so, excuse me. So we decided we're going to invest $40,000 into Bitcoin mining equipment, and we're just going to give the Bitcoin to our people for free.
And this was in 2022.
This was 2022. So I said, well, let's go bigger. Let's make a 3-year commitment. So we made a 3-year commitment, $40,000 a year, $120,000. We bought mining equipment. I knew a lot about Bitcoin in 2022, but I didn't know where it came from. I wanted to understand the mining just personally. My employees didn't care where if we mined it or if we bought it. It didn't matter to them. They just knew they were going to get a nice benefit. Excuse me. But I wanted to mine it just to learn the mining side. And I'm glad I did because it just gave me a more well-rounded view of Bitcoin. And so we made the investment and we started mining Bitcoin. And the only caveat was you had to stay 5 years. If you stayed 5 years, you'd get it. So we started that in 2022. Now, when I made that announcement, there was no cheering. There was no yelling and hollering and screaming and excitement. There was a lot of people looking at me like, I don't even know what this guy's talking about. They looked at me like I had two heads.
Yeah. Had anybody else in the company besides you started to acquire or accumulate Bitcoin?
Not really.
Okay.
There might have been a couple. There was one guy, and he's still with us actually. There was one guy who was into it, one of our printers. But I mean, it was a very extreme minority of people there.
Which I think, for those of us that were first exposed to it years ago or have been, learning of the technology, acquiring the asset and holding it, we're still in an echo chamber like you can even go a miles radius from here. How many people hold Bitcoin? It's more than it was 10 years ago or 5 years, but it's still.
it's
Do you know how many people don't even know that this is Bitcoin Park? Like this facility's here. They
it's
see
right
it.
here on 21st Avenue.
You
in
drive
Nashville,
right
yeah.
past it on the way to Vanderbilt and so many other places towards downtown or out of town, and people say, well, that's a really nice looking common area. Those buildings look really good. I wonder what goes on there. Most people don't know what happens here.
Well, our people certainly didn't know. And when I made
Yeah.
the announcement, I mean, they were just thinking, why can't you just give us the money,
Right.
like you did 2 years ago?
Yeah.
But thankfully for them, I didn't.
Yeah.
Because, that investment has grown and will continue to grow. And we chose 5 years because I was really wanting to accomplish several things. One was I wanted to do something for them. I wanted to give them some agency. I wanted to give them some equity in something because, excuse me, inflation in 2022 was off the charts. Officially
Sure.
it was like 8 point something percent. It was way higher than that.
Yeah.
It's still higher than they say it is today. I mean, now we're like yesterday the print came out. It was like 3.5.
Yeah.
It beat expectations. I'm like 3.5 is a terrible number.
Yeah.
And everybody celebrated on Twitter about it's 3.5. It is a horrendous tax on the people who can afford it the least.
Well, the other thing too on inflation, I think that word inflation is conflated. There's many meanings, right? There's the rate of inflation.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's also the price result of inflation, which for the most part doesn't regress or come down.
No, it compounds.
So it's like, well, inflation, the rate of inflation is down, but the prices are still much, much higher than they were 5 years ago, and wages necessarily haven't kept up, I think, generally speaking.
Yeah.
I think people still feel it's harder to make the dollar go further.
Yeah.
And it is.
Well, there's no question.
There-
about
it is.
And our people at Blue Cotton, they're frustrated with prices.
You're right.
They know there's a problem. They don't really know what the problem is.
Yeah.
Like I'm specifically speaking of 2022 because I'm going to get into something else that we did.
Yeah.
Something that Bitcoin led us to. They're frustrated.
Yeah.
Because it's like prices are going up, but like why? But why are prices going up? Oh, because of COVID? Well, like why did that make prices go up? Now people like you and I who maybe own assets, when there's a lot of inflation, it doesn't help us at the grocery store, but our assets also ride that inflation wave. But if you don't have assets,
Right.
you quickly get priced out.
Right.
Quickly get priced out of hard assets. And so I did this for a few reasons. One was to give them some agency, give them some equity, give them something that can't be taken from them.
Right.
Maybe they didn't understand what it was at the beginning, but I wanted to do something for them. I also wanted to teach them to think long term. Like, let's not just think about the end of the week or this month. Let's think 5 years out. Let's start to get a longer view. And also let's think about ourselves as investors. And let's learn to ride the ups and the downs. So I chose 5 years because, Bitcoin, by this point, I knew it's pretty volatile. It can go 4-year cycles, whatever. It can go up, it can go down. I figured if I chose 5-year period, they can't touch it for 5 years because we don't even give it to them until next Christmas.
Yeah.
Our first distribution's end of 27. They'll have to learn to ride the ups and downs. And let me tell you, they've done it. Because when we started, Bitcoin was 42 grand.
Yeah.
By the end of 22, it was 16 grand.
Yeah.
Then it went all the way to 126, and now it's popped back down to 60. And so but here's the beauty. They don't come asking me, what happened? Because I tell you, I say earlier that Bitcoin changed our business. Bitcoin was this thing we dropped into our recipe. But what that led us to, because once we dropped in, what it led us to, we could have never seen coming. Once we decided to give them the Bitcoin, we thought, well, I mean, let's say we end up giving them this asset in 5 years, and let's say it's worth 10 or 20 or 30,000 or 100,000. Over a long enough period of time, I fully believe these people will be 100,000 or more in Bitcoin if they hang on to it. But what have we done for them if we don't teach them how to think about money?
Right.
And so we made the investment and then quickly realized we need to educate our people on finance. So I started doing these personal development classes, and they started around finance, but they've led to nutrition, positive thinking, leadership.
And do you lead this, or do you bring people in?
No, I do it myself. I'm on Twitter all the time. I see an article, I'm like, that's a good article for our class.
Yeah.
And I save them, and I do a lot of reading. And
how often do you do those types of classes?
Once a week.
Once a week.
I've got one today at 3:00.
So at 3:00
today
on Wednesdays, every Wednesday, you do
I've
some
been
type
doing
of
these-
personal.
I've been doing these since 2022.
Wow.
For a while, I was doing 3 a week. Now we've reframed it into something we call Leadership Blue Cotton. starts in March. It goes through December, and it's every Wednesday. And we really hit 6 things: read, walk, save, give, eat whole, and connect.
Dude, that's amazing.
Like if you do those 6 things in life, your life's going to be a lot better.
Repeat them again.
Read, right? And we read books. That's one of the things we do. We read books together and then we talk about it. Read, walk. So how about just move, exercise,
Move your
right?
body. Yeah.
Save and give. Those are financial components.
Right. Absolutely.
Eat whole food.
Right.
and
Real food.
Eat real food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And connect. And connect, I told you I'm a Christian, so I think of connect as spirituality. But if you're not, I'm not going to beat you over the head with that. But if you're not, but you got to get connected.
Yeah.
Connect to a volunteer group,
Yeah.
to a church, to a club. But get connected. You can't live life in isolation. We're meant to be relational.
We were, I think, designed to be in community for sure.
100%. 100%. So the class revolves around those 6 things, but the most popular part of the class is the finance part.
Sure.
So we talk about things like, it starts off, we talk about inflation. We talk about debt and deficits, and we talk about GDP and what do these things mean? And so to get back to your point earlier about inflation and the compounding, when we talk about inflation, I say, they say inflation's up. They say inflation's down. Well, when inflation's down, why aren't prices going down? Exactly. Because they're not measuring the price.
Right.
They're measuring the rate of increase.
That's exactly right.
And so if inflation's 5% one month, but it's 3% next month, everybody says, inflation's down.
But the prices are still high.
And I use this example.
Yeah.
If you start off and you weigh 100 pounds and you have a 5% gain the first year, you're at 105. If you have a 5% gain the second year, you're at 110. Well, hey, in the third year, weight's down, only went up 2%. Now I'm at 112.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, wait a second. I thought you said my weight was down. Oh, it is. But I weigh more. I know, because inflation compounds.
That's right.
And so even if the rate drops down, it's still adding on to what it was the month before. And so prices get more and more and more out of line. And Stu, it is tough. It is tough when I just say just normal, just everyday regular people, the people that work for me, they're not going home on the weekend and studying monetary policy.
Right.
They're not keeping up with the Fed's doing. They don't even know who Kevin Warsh is.
Mm-hmm.
But they know there's a problem and they're frustrated, and I get it. And you look at in New York, this Mamdani character, I'm not a fan, but I'm gonna tell you something. He put his finger on the problem. He definitely understands the problem. Things are things are unaffordable.
Yeah.
Now his solutions will make things 10 times worse than they already are. But I'm going to tell you something. People out there, they see the gap between the asset holders and the people that don't have them.
K-shaped economy.
It's not good. And so we just wanted to do our part. What can we do? We don't make the change in our employees' lives. They make the changes. We don't take credit for that, but we will say, we're going to give you a platform. We'll give you a platform from which you can really increase.
When you do the personal and the self-development work on Wednesdays, do the lines stop and people come to the front? Because I've been to your warehouse, your manufacturing plant, and it is a manufacturing plant. It's not a distribution center, as you were talking about. Where do you convene to do this?
In our break room.
So you pull everybody in.
Well, no,
it's optional.
It's optional.
Yeah,
and usually classes are about 20 people.
Okay.
So we're trying to get through the whole company. So we've done this, our 4th one. So we have about 80 people.
Okay.
I've had access to about 80 people, and we talk about those 6 things.
Okay.
And I try to make it a little funny, and like today we're doing the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire class, and so today is about if you just invest a little here and use our 401k, use our Bitcoin, do a little bit on your own. I'm going to show them today how when you're 65 you can be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And a lot of our people are young, so I've got that. They've got time.
Yeah.
If somebody's 55 years old, I can't make them a millionaire by the time they're 65. But if
Right.
you're 25,
Right.
it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Stu. Nobody's ever told them.
No. And
Nobody's ever said you can have financial independence.
Yeah.
They just think they're going to work forever. They think they're always going to be in conflict with money. It's very frustrating. But I'm there to show them, hey, look, with a little bit of discipline, and I'm not talking about tons, but with a little bit of discipline, you can be financially independent.
Yeah.
And we take a lot of pride at Blue Cotton that we're engaging with our own people in that way, and it's making a huge difference, because our turnover, and like for the people listening in this, that are in your audience listening, that are business owners or run big businesses, like, here's the real bottom line. Our turnover in 2022 was 108%. In 2025, it was 14.
Wow.
That is a humongous difference.
And you attribute
Humongous.
that, without doubt,
Oh.
the personal and professional development you have given your people, and Bitcoin's had a major
The
impact.
Bitcoin was the splash that got their attention. Once we had their attention, then we just followed it up with just human, just good human interaction. Just how about just be good to people?
be
How
good
about
to
just be helpful?
Yeah.
How about take, I'm 59. How about take some of the knowledge? I don't know everything, but I know some things. How about take some of the things that I know and just share them
Yeah.
with people who are maybe 25,
Yeah.
who maybe haven't heard it before. I told you earlier, I grew up in a really financially stable home.
Right.
I had a lot of advantages there. It was common sense. It wasn't like I got a PhD in finance when I left home.
Right.
It was just common sense. But a lot of people don't grow up like that.
Yeah. You mentioned something about getting Bitcoin at the price you deserve. I think a lot of people, and I think even for there are more resources for people to plug into now, certainly than I found Bitcoin in 2016. You were first exposed to it in 2013. Certainly more resources now for people to plug into.
Absolutely.
And hope my wish and part of one of the platforms for Sound HSA is that we do a lot of educating, but my hope is that people understand why sound money is so important and that it's available to everybody. It is democratized money in that sense that, yeah, you come from a certain background, but everybody can participate in this network. Everybody can hold the asset if they choose to. There are enough resources that are available to help educate people on how to do that. And there's a lot more work to do. But just because you found it in 2013 or I found it in 2016, people automatically assume, well, you just went all in and had conviction from
day one.
From day one. It takes time. Yeah, you may have made an allocation, but it's like where people start is where they start. And just because you receive the information, and this is the best form of money that in known human history, right? I think all of us
absolutely
agree. Just because you're exposed to it doesn't mean you get it day 1 or day 10 or day 100.
Yeah. Well, think about this. The first time somebody told you to invest for retirement, did you invest on day one?
No.
First time you ever heard it, did you do it?
No.
No, I heard that in like 1991 when I got out of college. Hey, you should start investing for retirement. Okay, yeah, I should. Yeah, I do know that.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I didn't start investing until 1997, 6 years later.
Yeah.
So people, they hear it. That doesn't mean they automatically just jump right in. And so maybe I'm telling them for the first time. Maybe I'm telling our people for the 5th time. But at some point, they are going to do this.
Yeah.
That they will do it. And we're just happy to give them that education.
It's fantastic. So full disclosure. So I went up and visited Mike and his team at Blue Cotton in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I didn't really know what I was going to walk into, Mike. I came up on the property. Obviously, it's a big footprint. You've got a plant there. I walk in, and the way we accessed your office, at least the conference room, it's kind of in the crow's nest, above the manufacturing floor. But you walk through the manufacturing floor, and I can tell you, I have not been like in a plant environment like that probably in 20 plus years. And I had to stop and look to watch what was happening, because here, a massive, massive space with people making things in America.
Yeah.
And I not to overhype it or sensationalize, but I kind of took pause. I'm like, I got kind of emotional because it was something I had not seen, but something that's so tied to who we are as Americans, is building and making stuff.
Yeah.
And here was a group of people building and making stuff. And so I want to get your comments on that. The other thing too, back to your Bitcoin, back to the incentives, you guys have your mining rewards on 2 monitors that are right near your break room. So if anybody has any idea where they are in that vesting schedule,
it's right there.
It's right there. So you're
Live
visually
updated every day.
Everybody can see it. And I think that's so important, that it's not some abstract thing, that you have shown people exactly what's happening with that. Bitcoin.
And we kept the miners on location for a long time.
Oh, you did?
I eventually moved the miners to a refrigerated area because they were getting hot. They were having some maintenance issues. But we had the miners on location for a long time, and the people could hear them.
Yeah.
You'd hear them and you'd see them and you'd be like, what is it? I'd say, that's your money. That's what we're doing right there.
Right.
We're mining Bitcoin with those machines right there.
Yeah.
That's yours.
Yeah.
That just kind of, because, Bitcoin's a very intangible thing. You can't hold it or touch it. And this was a way for them to be like, so those machines are making money for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes.
Yes, they are.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
You just stay. You got to stay. You got to stay 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're staying.
Yeah. but they're staying.
And they're staying, I think, for that, and because they realize, like, this company, they care about doing the right thing.
Yeah,
doing the right thing matters.
Yeah, the visceral response though, back for me seeing all of that, I mean, it's just got to give you a lot of pride to see what kind of company you and your team have built, and that's still possible in America. I mean, you made the comment before we went on air that there's a lot of distribution centers out there, big warehouses, acres and acres of plants and distribution plants. But you guys are making.
There's real people in there. We always say we're a real small company in a real small town with real people, working in there, and that's what we do. Yeah, every single day.
I think it's fantastic, and the fact that you're teaching your people how to live more abundant lives. I think we talk a lot about sound about, this abundance versus scarcity mindset, and how do we help people, create more abundance in their lives, right? To think long term, to be more proactive with their health and wellness, and just take sovereignty over their finances and their health. I mean, that's, faith, family, that's the top. But if you don't have your health, it's really hard to be present in anything.
Yeah. Yeah, Dick Vitale, we're both basketball fans.
Yeah.
Dick Vitale, what's he say? If you have your health, you're a billionaire, baby.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's exactly right. I've heard RFK Jr. say, if you've got, what does he say? He said, if you've got, I wish I could remember his phrase. Everybody's got 1,000 problems.
But good health isn't, if you have good health, that's not one of them or something.
But if you have bad health, you only have one problem.
Yeah, that's right.
You only have one problem.
Right.
Like, that's the only thing you can see if your health is not good. And so, so I think that's really, really critical.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do you see Blue Cotton in 5 years? You say you're going to pay your first mining rewards
next year.
Yeah.
We're just under a year and a half away from our first payout. We'll make a payout in 27. Then we'll make a payout in 28, 20. Yeah. So since we started the 3-year commitment, we've added 2 more years on. So now we've made 5 years worth of commitments. And so they pay out every year for 5 years. And then I'm sure this year we'll probably do it again. Yeah. So it'll carry on for a while. But, and it's a way for when we hire people, we say, look, when you get hired here, you become part of the Bitcoin initiative, stay 5 years, you vest. So I don't know, where do I see myself in 5 years? Where do I see the company in 5 years? Well, I got to give a lot of credit. So my partner's one that had this dream of best place to work in Kentucky. And I was just thinking, I was like, we have this big plant. And, these people that work here, like, best places to work, that's like reserved for banks or insurance companies or like, high-tech companies. It can't be a factory.
Yeah.
But she was insistent. She's got big vision, that's why she's such a great partner. She was insistent that we could be best place to work in Kentucky. And I'll be dog, we actually got it this year.
It's amazing.
So we went to Lexington just about a month ago, went up there for the big presentation. And the cool thing about that award is 80% of that designation comes from your employee
surveys. Yeah.
So, like, we can apply for it, but we can't manipulate that. We can't pay for it. Some of these awards you get, you can kind of pay your way into the award. You can't pay your way into this one. Your people have to vouch for you. And so I think about the next 5 years. I mean, that's a really, really important milestone for us to hit. Probably the proudest I've ever been of what our team did. And you said it's not just me; it's me and the team. It's I can't give enough credit to the team. I guess sometimes people say, what's your superpowers? And my superpower is somehow I can attract really good people to come hang around me.
Yeah.
Because I can't do all the stuff on my own, but I do attract really good people. And for whatever reason, and those really good people do a lot of work, and they make us a lot of success, and they're really good for our people. So, I think in the next 5 years, we want to grow our presence. Grow our presence online. We have an outside sales team. We want to grow our presence offline customers. I think we're working with you, or maybe working with John, one of his restaurants up in Chicago.
Oh yeah, Fork and Coin. Yeah,
Fork and Coin.
Yeah.
So just trying to grow that and just provide as much opportunity as we can for our people. We say it a lot. If the owners are the only people that really benefit from the business, like, is that really what I want to walk away with? I want to walk away I want to do well, but what the currency that I really want to trade in is in 10 years when I see somebody in Bowling Green and they say, hey, I used to work at Blue Cotton and I went through one of those leadership classes and it led me to go do X, Y, Z. And I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Like, and we're getting that.
Yeah.
We're getting that from people, and that is really like that's where you really feel like you're making a difference in changing and helping people to change their lives.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we want to do.
I think that's a great place to maybe stop. And thank you so much, man. This
Yeah.
is, you know, when we got together, you know, we share Bitcoin as a common interest and other things too. But I mean, I think the story of what Blue Cotton is and what you and your team have built and are continue to build, I think it renews my hope in the American dream, the American sense of entrepreneurship. And I think that's what we need to celebrate. The workforce is changing in a lot of ways. I think we all see it coming, and it's, you know, what these new technologies are going to mean for, you know, how we value our place in the workforce and what our roles are. So I think it's, you know, I think doing good stuff is a great cornerstone of operating at any aspect of your life, is do the next right thing in business and life and family, friends, all of it. So Mike Coffey, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
anything else you
well,
want to touch on?
I want to plug Sound just for a second,
Oh,
because
yeah.
in November we're going to be offering the Sound HSA to our people.
Fantastic.
And we're working through the logistics of that right now. And so I'm hoping that that's a home run for our folks. I've learned a lot about the HSA since talking to you and John. And so we're excited to be able to, we're going to be excited to offer that in November.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Looking forward to it. Awesome, man.
All right, thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. That was a good rip.